He had seen me stumbling to my front door drunk and decided he'd try playing into my obviously altered state. I was young, so I still was unsure how to handle those types of males, and my birthday had just passed, so when he gave me a hug, I assumed it was just a nice gesture. Then I tried hurrying off, but he kept trying to come in and have a beer to celebrate more appropriately. He refused to take no for an answer, so I pretended like I didn't have my house keys to hold him off. I walked a little bit off to the side pretending to call someone who might have my keys, but I really called my cousin, telling him how freaked out I was. He rushed over to get me right away. Neighbor dude was in his 50s and I was 22. He didn't take kindly to my rejection that night and ended up poisoning my dogs later on out of pure pettiness. My family and I used to live in a rough neighborhood when I was a kid. One night, it was just my mom, my two siblings, and I at home, and my dad was gone on a business trip. Around midnight, someone started knocking on our door. My mom woke up, went to the front door, and asked who it was. No one answered. She thought that maybe it was some kids playing ding-dong ditch, so she went back to bed. About 30 minutes later, again, someone starts knocking. She gets up and peers through the side window to see if she can spot anyone out there, but nobody is there. She starts to worry, so she goes back to the room, grabs my dad's double barrel, and sits in the living room in the dark, waiting. Then, more knocking. My mom begins shouting at whoever it is that she is going to call the cops and that if anyone tries to come in, she would shoot them. At about 2 in the night, the police finally show up and do a quick search outside of our house while we waited inside. After their search, they tell my mom that they had found a piece of barbed wire about 4 feet long next to the front door and asked if it belonged to my mom. She said that it wasn't hers and asked why. The cop told her it belonged to whoever was knocking on the door. That they were planning on strangling my mom with the barbed wire when she opened the door to see who was knocking. They said that she was very smart to not open the door to see who was there, otherwise it could have cost her life. The cops said that they'd patrol the neighborhood until morning and do a thorough investigation once there was daylight. That morning, as they were searching around the house, they found footprints leading around to the back of the house and up to my bedroom window. They had also found nicks in the window sill where the person was trying to pry it open to break in but failed. My mom always suspected it was this one neighbor, because he would always stare at my mom through his curtains, and wasn't very friendly. He also knew when my dad wasn't home, since he knows what vehicle he drives. We moved out of that house after that. My dad lives in an apartment, and one day, he came home to cops outside of his door. It was very early, 5 or 5:30 in the morning. They asked if they could ask him some questions, and my dad said of course, invited them in, and made them breakfast. They asked him some questions about his neighbor across the hall. Just general stuff like have you noticed anything weird, etc. My dad told him no, he looks like a well put together, 30-ish year old businessman. My dad lives in higher end apartments, so this is what everyone looks like. Nothing weird or out of the ordinary. The cops go on to explain that a 30-year-old woman is missing and was last seen by a security camera walking into the building with this man. But they never had any footage of her, or him for that matter, leaving the apartment. The cops stay outside and monitor the apartment until about 5 in the evening that night when they finally get a warrant. They notice a shower curtain missing and golf clubs scattered on the bedroom floor. They end up arresting the guy. Fast forward 3 weeks, and the cops find her body about 45 minutes south in the woods on the side of a bike trail. Some runner stumbled upon her. Nothing more was released on what state she was in. Then about 2 months ago, they found more tapes, as the investigators went back to look at them. They discovered the man leaving the apartment with his golf bag. But like I said earlier, all of his clubs were in his room. I'm sure many people have put 2 and 2 together, a full-size woman wouldn't fit in a golf bag, but that's how he got her out. His trial is coming up. As of right now, he claims it was an accident and he panicked and tried to hide it since he had a girlfriend. I didn't really talk to him, but I'm pretty sure he did something to his wife and 2-year-old daughter. When I met the wife I was maybe 10 or so. She was really sweet. The husband however was kinda sketchy. He had a very expensive car, and the only thing he would ever do was drive or wash it. Once, my friend and I were playing around outside in mid-June and he started to pull out of his driveway. My friend jokingly yelled out, "Why do you drive around so much?" He replied, "Because driving is the only thing to do in this piece of town." And sped off, but not before flipping us off. A couple of months later, the police came knocking. They asked my mom if she knew anything about the neighbors, said that he and the wife had supposedly gotten divorced, and asked if we knew the whereabouts of his wife/kid. We said no, of course, and they told us that apparently the wife ran away and they couldn't track down the daughter. The only thing we knew about the wife was that she had a 2-year-old, was maybe pregnant, and that she drove a white Jeep. A couple months later, the husband was cleaning his car, and my mom and I were leaving for an appointment, when my mom noticed the white Jeep in the garage. If the wife had run off, then wouldn't she have taken the Jeep? The dude saw that my mom had noticed the white Jeep, and a couple days later, he sold it. At one point, we had gotten a package for them delivered to our house. So, we went to return it. His house smelled like pot and the deceased, and we saw a gun on the dining room table. I really hoped that it was a misunderstanding or something, and that the wife took the kid and ran as far as she could. Growing up we had some really crazy neighbors that lived across the road from us. The parents were real nutters and abusive to their kids. They would regularly lock their children out the front of their house and lock the front gate so they couldn't leave with nothing but one glass of water. Now this is outback Australia where temperatures would regularly reach 40 to 45 degrees. The kids would be screaming and crying out the front. Police would get called, they'd come. Kids would go back inside then get put back out once they'd left. The mother would also come out the front of the house when my mum would be farewelling or greeting people and start yelling, "Mr.STORYTELLER 89, why won't you be my friend? I know you think I am crazy. Please be my friend." A few years ago I heard the mother had been committed to a psychiatric hospital, husband remarried, and kids have nothing to do with them now.